Leanne, you're here on Spark TV and you have brought a bubbles. I'm so excited.
I have. Cheers to you. From
I'm
one coast
vodka liming sodaing today, which is a little off-brand, but it's still going to hit the spot, I think.
Definitely. What time? I mean, you're in Western Australia, right?
Yeah, so I've just hit. It's appropriate for me to have a drink in my hand because it's 3 p.m. So it's okay.
Well, it is 5 o'clock over here, like that famous song, right? 5 o'clock somewhere. So there we go.
So good. I'm so glad you've made my day. Okay, let's get into it. So, who are you and what do you do? Let's start there.
Yeah. It's funny, Danielle, because that's like the question that I resist the most, which is like the easiest question in the world, right? And I'm sure it's the same when you talk to many of the founders as part of this series as well. And it really depends on like what day of the week and what am I into. Really, the underpinning theme is I help founders and business leaders get the best out of themselves and their team. But that emerges in so many different ways. And in terms of the methodology as well, from consulting, like behind the scenes, to workshops, to coaching, to advising, to even helping companies create private podcasts. So I love the variety.
Wow,
that's
cool.
why I'm a solopreneur. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's like you just designed a business that you love. That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm getting that. And I think I do have friends that are actually in very influential positions. And Leanne, I want to refer you for work. What should I tell people? And I'm like, look, just tell them I'm a great person and you like working with me and we'll take it from there. Like and I definitely find it, there's a great TED talk about being a multi-potentialite. And it's a blessing and it's a curse. Yes. So it's just navigating that. And some days I'm like, I need clarity. And then other days I'm like, actually, it's cool that I'm okay with ambiguity. So that's where I sit.
I love that because I think that, there's people who are on different sides of the fence, right? Like some people who are like, nope, you need to niche down and have a focus and have an XYZ. And then there are other people who are like, no, be multi-passionate. What did you call it? What was the TED talk?
Multi-potentialite.
Oh, multi-potentialite. I like that. That's cool.
I love it.
I think people are kind of on two different sides of the fence sometimes. It's nice to hear people, because I'm the same. I'm like, I'll do a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Yeah. And like Danielle, I remember when I first met you, because you were speaking, I think it was Entrepreneur House. And I was like, you are such a dynamic speaker. And I love that, I think you were working corporate in Telstra, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. And then you started this business, and then you like the way you took it in terms like the influencer marketing. And then during COVID, you're doing like this gin.
The hand sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love seeing that. I find it very inspiring. The fact that, the reason I left corporate was I didn't want to be in a box or be in a role. And, sometimes you're in a team and they think you can't do things like innovation. It's like, well, yeah, it's a very much a box life. And so, yeah, definitely try to sort of play that, but it does have its challenges. Yeah.
Oh, totally. So, well, speaking of corporate, was there a corporate career before going into your own business? What's your history?
Yeah. So, my most, when I left corporate in 2019, I'd been working for a global mining company in learning and development. And when I kicked it off, actually, one of my first gigs was my boss, like we were very under-resourced and we had no budget, which was actually great, to be honest.
Story of corporates everywhere.
That's the best thing, because then we're like, okay, who's going to run these leadership programs? And my boss is like, Leanne, you can do it. So he sent me to Canada and I was basically jet lagged. I jumped off the plane. I've never run leadership workshops before. I get into this group. They're like 30 male mining supervisors. Here's this woman from corporate head office in Brisbane, and there I am teaching them about leadership, right? So that's actually what happened. The reason I started I've got a podcast all about facilitating workshops, and that's because I had an incident in the Canadian workshop where one of the guys refused to participate in an activity. Yeah. And then I went on to the next guy and he refused. And I'm like, what the hell do I do to bring this back on track? And so I came back to us. I mean, I think I sorted it out as best I could in the moment, but I came back to Australia. I rang every facilitator friend and said, what would you have done? And then I thought, this would make a good podcast. So
what is the advice? Like, what the hell would you do if you were in a workshop and not getting the best out of people?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes back to preparation. And I think at the beginning of the day, we talked about like getting outside of your comfort zone and the values of the business. So I had these flip charts there. So I kind of brought it back to that and then reinforced the agreements, and then went to the next person. And I was praying to God that I'd just come up to the damn activity. And it worked. But a lot of my friends were saying they would have maybe called a break in the moment and had a chat one-on-one with the person just to address it and to be seen, but not to call out the person as well. Yeah, and I definitely think the prep, I don't know if that would happen now, because maybe I wouldn't have done that activity on the first day. It was actually quite, getting people to step up and do an activity in front of their peers. It's actually quite a hard thing to do when you haven't really built the trust. So, I mean, we all learn from
quite
these
daunting for participants. Like,
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's daunting for
like,
me, let alone.
Yeah, well, most people don't want to get up in front of anybody, do they?
No, and that's why actually I like facilitation, because it's actually not about you, it's about what can you get from the group. And so one of the best phrases I heard in my podcast was, if you can stand in service, you can't be nervous. So it's all about just switching that focus onto,
Oh, I love that.
I'm in service of the group here, and what am I doing to support this and get the best out of them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's like just a great philosophy for showing up and doing anything inside your business.
Very true. I never thought about like bringing it back at that level. You're right. But even, I was working with a client today. I did something called the red carpet experience. That's why I'm drinking bubbles now.
Oh my God, I saw that on your Instagram stories. What is this?
Yeah. I mean, so actually we talk about niching, right? So I don't niche at all, but I niche when it comes to an offer, right?
Yeah.
So this was about, I was just brainstorming one day. I think I'd worked with a client that I was just like, that was a terrible experience. We weren't aligned. They weren't getting the best. Yeah. And like, what would be a really great experience? Like, it'd be great to hang out with someone, work on their business, get them some clarity, because I can do it for other people, and drink champagne on rooftop bars.
Oh my God, I'm in. This sounds amazing.
Well, and other people are into. So this lady flew from New Zealand, amazing Jo.
Yeah.
And we hung out and did that today. I'm wondering why I brought that up. What was in relation to, but
I think niching down, you said you niche down when it comes to a particular product.
That's it. Yeah. And that's why I keep it. So it's just a wide variety of offerings depending on, I guess, what I feel like.
That's so cool. I love it. And I mean, it's interesting you said reflecting on an experience you had that wasn't particularly fabulous, and then looking at it and going, okay, well, what would a great experience look like? I literally just wrote that down because I'm like, wow, that's actually, I feel like sometimes in business, we get so focused on delivering for our customer that we kind of wake up one day and go, I don't really like working in my business anymore. But imagine putting that hat on, then that spin on it to actually say, well, what would an amazing experience look like for both of us?
Yeah.
And then creating a product around that. I think that's super cool.
Yeah. And just engaging like your best talents and strengths. Because even like when I reflect on that poor experience, like I was being pulled into a space that mainly probably wasn't my expertise. I knew that I could do it, but I didn't really even believe in it. And it was probably more so a quick cash grab, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
And then when I flipped it, I thought, like, how do I amalgamate the best talents and service of someone else? And who was that type of person? And, and buying into that experience of the red carpet, much like this podcast, like we're both like having a nice drink and having like just a chat, having that experience, having that language around it, it really elevates it. And you do get the best out of the people that come along to that party.
Totally. Yeah. And I just think as well, like there's so much of the same out there, like doesn't matter what industry you're in, you can look around and have your pick of a handful of people that do the exact same thing, like no matter what product and service you provide. But I love the idea that if you create an experience, it's innately going to be different than everything else on the market. I think that's a super cool way to look at it.
Yeah. And even, I talk about that a lot when it comes to like selling your workshops, is like, what do you call it? And even when COVID hit, a lot of my work with workshops was like flying around the world and delivering in person. And I'm like, okay, that's gone. What the hell do I do now? And I honestly didn't know Danielle. So I, rather than do market research, which for me and the energy is like, oh, like I would hate to do market research, but I did I went on a listening tour, right? And even reframing it in my own mind.
Oh,
and people were like, oh, I'm going to jump in that listening tour. And they felt great. I felt great. It was market research in disguise, but giving it another name, again, gave it that different type of energy and feel.
Yeah. Oh,
Mm.
that's so clever. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So just reflect on that. So obviously you started your business in 2019, you said,
Yeah.
and then COVID hits and you are in a space where it is very face to face. What was that all like? How did you adapt? What was that experience like, and how do you
Yeah.
think it's impacted what you do today?
I was actually very grateful because I had been jumping on planes, delivering. I was pretty exhausted. I didn't realize it until I stopped. And I
Mm,
actually loved, I know that sounds terrible. I know there's a lot of like tragedy and everything else, but for me personally, I actually really liked having space to just stop and not have to
mm,
see people.
yeah.
Which is strange because I do like people.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just need to,
We need
recharge.
a break sometimes, don't we?
Yeah. But what surprised me, then I just jumped on like, because I wanted connections. So I just kept jumping on these Zoom calls and I'm like, actually, these are quite exhausting. But
Mm,
the interesting thing about my podcast was then people were asking me, hey, how do we, our clients now want us to deliver these remotely. Like, what the hell do we do now? And so
mm,
I was kind of, with the guests that I'd get on my podcast and my Facebook group, we were all just sharing ideas. And we were just, honestly, I think we were just cutting edge in terms of what these virtual workshops were looking like and how we engaged and
mm.
jumping on virtual happy hours, just testing technology. So it became actually like awesome for my business because if anyone wants to learn about workshops, they'll notice like there's a series of 50 episodes, which is purely about the best tech tools, like how to engage virtually, how to read virtual body language, all of that. So
Mm.
again, just pivoted with the times and became really responsive to what people were after.
That's
And
so
it all moved,
cool.
yeah, but it was actually great because I had all these global clients and working from my spare bedroom. So, and that's kind of continued as well. So about 60% of my clients are virtual around the world, 40% in person.
Oh, I love that. Do you think we've gone completely back to in person, or do you think it's still a bit of virtual, a bit of in person, like a bit of a hybrid? What do you think?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
where do we
definitely,
land?
I think it really depends on the leader of the organization. Because if you look at
Mm,
Elon Musk, like he was like, right, come on back in. Now, the scary thing about
yeah.
that, I don't mind Elon. Like, I think what he's done has been pretty tremendous and people bag him, but like, what has he done? It's pretty
Mm,
amazing what he's doing. Anyway,
yeah.
he's
Yes,
got a
I
whole
agree.
manifesto around bringing people into the office. And so I know like Meta and Google are trying to do the same thing. And a lot of other organizations around the world look to these companies as sources of inspiration. But I really
Mm,
think it reflects the level of trust within an organization, and kind of
yeah.
old school leadership is for people to be productive, that we need to see them.
Yeah.
Absolutely not the case. Whereas you've got, so it's definitely hybrid, but it really reflects the culture of the leader, their level of
Mm,
trust, and their belief around what is productive, what is an output, what is a result. Um, I find the companies that are embracing it are actually they're able to recruit talented people. They don't really have a problem with that.
mm.
It's the
Yeah.
people that don't that are finding it very challenging.
Yeah, I do feel like you've got to almost offer both, like, because it's really interesting. I find that I just reflect on my own working style. And as a business owner coming from corporate, I really struggle not to work 9 to 5. And of course, I've got clients as well. So they're all online 9 to 5. But I struggle with the mentality of, if I'm not behind my laptop between these working hours, clearly I'm unproductive. And I kind of berate myself, oh, you should be working right now. And I'm like, why do I
What?
still think like that?
It's so hard to break that. I'm with
Yeah.
you. I'm totally with you. And there's a really great activity. My friend Jenny Blake, she wrote the book Pivot. She's a former Google career development coach, and she's
Mm,
just gets you to like sort of plan your ideal day and what that looks like. And honestly, for me, I love working with US clients. So tomorrow morning, I've got a call with someone at 5:30 in the morning.
mm.
Perfect. Like I love that. Then by 7 o'clock, I've like won the day already. Go to some exercise,
Yeah.
come back. I feel like as business owners, most of the great ideas are outside, that they don't happen in front of a screen. The screen is for execution,
Mm.
but the creativity, like that, all this red carpet, like that idea came from just being at a cafe and just not
Yeah.
even switch like on to work. But you're right, presenteeism culture
Mm.
is still reigning. Yeah.
Totally. And it is so funny. Like, there is this literal thing that happens to me at 5 p.m. when I become more productive and I become more, it's like this weight has lifted off my shoulder. And it's like, okay, now I can think clearly because I am in control of my own destiny. And I get so much done after, in, air quotes, after hours, because there isn't the stress of you should be doing it right now and productive. It's bizarre.
Yeah. And that's why like I do a lot of great work on like holidays when everyone else, like during the Christmas break, everyone's like on these beautiful holidays, but because we don't have kids. So like we're not going on holidays when there's school holidays. That's ridiculous, right? We go on
Yes.
holidays when everyone
Yes.
else is back.
Yes.
so
Good strategy. I
so
like
they're
that.
all away. And I'm like, that is, you're right. Because there's no temptation of checking your inbox or anything else because you know nothing's coming through. Everyone else is on break. And I find that like same as you with your 5 p.m. rule. Well,
Yeah,
not rule,
it's
but way of working. Yeah.
totally. It's so good. But I think, you're right. It is just a hard habit to break, and so even then I kind of think about, okay, well, if I have that instilled in me and I should be innovating and thinking, whatever, like how hard is it to actually create something inside an organization where you give that freedom to your employees? Like that is hard.
It is. I've got a friend that works for a massive oil company and she works like crazy hours. Like her manager is in London. So, I caught up with her for brunch the other day and this is Friday. She's back on a call with her at 7:30 at night. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, wow.
And so, I mean, something that I did, so I did some coaching in a mining organization a couple of years ago. Now, the hard thing, I mean, working in corporate is that like everyone's got, it's like calendar Tetris. Remember that? Where you're just trying to get book in meeting times.
Yeah.
But then I also know that everyone hates meetings. Like, honestly, no one wants another meeting in their calendar.
Yeah.
So I said, I mean, something that I've been doing is called Leanne on demand. So I offer like asynchronous voice note coaching.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I could be at the dog park, like just answering a question, right? But I said to my friend, like, why don't you and your manager have like a voice note set up to work asynchronously, and then you can pick it up at your own time. You're still getting the verbal cues. I mean, Danielle, you have a podcast, right? People really, audio is very intimate. You can really build up relationships just through audio.
Yes.
And you're also responding when you're in a good mood, like you're moving around, you've got the time to respond as opposed to I've got to be at this meeting. We've got to fill the 30 minutes. It's just, yeah.
It's so true. And it's really interesting. I had a meeting with a client yesterday and they're like, oh, should we have X, Y, and Z on this call? And I was like, no, absolutely not, because they'll just sit there for 30 minutes to an hour and listen. And then I'll end up writing out what we're doing anyway. But it is interesting. You are so right. People don't want to be on meetings. Like there is just this old school mentality of how we did things, and I absolutely love the voice note idea, like of being able to go back and forth. Because I mean, I guess we have chat like Slack and Teams and those types of things, but you're right. When you hear somebody speak, you kind of get the sense of urgency or clarity or, and sometimes when you don't know how to explain something, actually writing it in a sentence is like, I don't even know what to tell this person to do. No. But if you're in a voice note, you can kind of go kind of like this, kind of like you can articulate it a lot better. I think that's genius.
It's honestly the best. And like, I remember working with this maintenance manager and everyone's like, oh, this guy's so busy and he'll never have time. And of course he didn't. But then we became like, I feel like he felt it like a walkie talkie. So we were just, doing this for 6 weeks. I couldn't fly up because of COVID. Then by the time I got to site, we were like hugging. We were just best mates.
Oh, that's
through the power of a voice note. Like,
my God. It's cool. I just love it. It's like, think outside the box in terms of how you get work done, like rather than, and how you deliver outcomes. I know we kind of started with that idea of time versus outcomes. Like thinking about not the delivery method first, like think about what you're trying to do. Are you trying to connect with someone? Are you trying to get a result? And then kind of think about the delivery method you can wrap around it.
Yeah, and exactly. And so the second, like when 2019, I was calling myself a facilitator. So anytime someone came to me, I'd default to the methodology of a workshop. And that was a real problem because hang on, like what is the result that we need to create? What's the experience needed here? And then you design from there. And I think it's kind of like good strategy is that rather than projecting where we are right now into the future, actually just pause, think about what is the ideal future? What do we need to do to shift here to get there? So yes, there's a few elements in that.
Okay, well, I've just redesigned all of my businesses while we've been sitting here. So thank you so much for that.
Anytime,
totally.
Happy to help.
No, but I think it's very cool. So talk to me then. So taking the leap from corporate career to starting your own business, what was that like?
I was definitely ready. When I was working internally, I actually started the podcast when I was working in the business. So I was kind of building an audience in the time, and I gave myself a 12-month type of runway. Actually, it wasn't that. It was more like, if I can deliver a leadership session in Mongolia, once I get Mongolia, I'm out, because I've been to like Canada.
Why Mongolia?
I just love the people that I was working with. I thought it was such an exotic place. And then my boss sent me there. Obviously, she didn't know that was my goal tip.
Like, awesome.
So I got back, but I through the podcast, I developed like a lot of like very strategic relationships. I wouldn't call them that. They're just like actual friends, but they became like very helpful in providing guidance and partnering. I mentioned Jenny like before, one of the best gigs I got. So I basically read a book, Pivot, when I was working internally. I was I accepted this job. I felt like I wasn't even contributing. I felt like a very small fish in a big pond. I read this book and I realized it wasn't the organization, it was me. Like I wasn't seeking out opportunities and stepping up. So this book changed my life. I connected with the author, Jenny, in New York. So one of the coolest things out of leaving my job was, she's like, oh, Leanne, I'm running a pivot workshop for Chanel in Paris. Would you like to come along and co-facilitate? So
Stop it.
She flew me to Paris. And there I am. I'm like, what the hell is, like, if it was so bizarre. Here I am with my hero. Like, it was like tick, 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 like the best. You can't even imagine how amazing that was.
And this is from you having a podcast, you reading a book, and you like taking the leap and reaching out to the author.
Yes.
Holy expletive.
I know.
It's not a sign to like take action and like kind of take a leap of faith. I don't know what it is. That is so cool. What was that like? Oh my God. What was it like?
Honestly, what it was like was even as I'm sitting at the airport in Brisbane, I'm like, something's going to happen. This is not going to, like,
this can't be real.
This is not real. Like, then I'm in Paris. I'm like, okay, the workshop won't happen. What was it like? Oh, incredible. And we get along so well. So she's like blurbed my new book. We're very good friends now. Working, well, the actual workshop was interesting because I've never worked with French people before, but they're very like, Jenny's American, I'm Australian. When you start a workshop at 9 o'clock, you start at 9 o'clock. Over there, it's more like, okay, it starts at 9 o'clock, but we'll saunter in at 9:30. We'll have some coffee. We'll have a smoke. And like everyone looks so like, well, honestly, the first question was, what the hell do I wear to this workshop? Right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes, for Chanel. Hello. Oh my God.
I know. And
picturing a room full of fabulous people, like, oh, I would freak out.
Oh my gosh. And then we went like the catering. Like, I've never seen catering like this before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the whole experience was amazing. And being in Paris and then being with Jen, so that was pretty amazing. That was September of 2019. Yeah. And I was very fortunate to have gigs that year, India, Hong Kong, Singapore, just through connections. So I kind of leapt out of the gate, and then COVID kind of halted me. I learned how to pivot. Now in year 4, it's really funny because I get opportunities now and I think, oh, I don't want to do that. And whereas I know in 2019, I would have leapt at the opportunity to do that. So there's growth there. At the same time, I don't feel like I've grown. How do you feel about that?
It is really interesting, actually, that idea of in the early days, yes, you do, right? You're like, I've got to say yes to everything. And I actually don't think that's a bad thing. So I think now for me, saying yes to everything is a bad thing, but that is only because I've said yes to bad things and experienced it and taken the time to figure out what I like doing, what I don't like doing, but also like what works and what doesn't work. So even it's interesting. I'm actually going through this right now. I've got somebody who we're pitching, and I know I'm kind of like on the fence about whether we should take them on as a client, because I don't think they value the space as much as one should value the space. And I'm kind of like, am I really setting myself up for failure? Is anything we deliver actually going to be good enough because they already don't value it? And I'm in that moment of just coaching them and educating them and kind of getting to that point of will we or won't we? But the only reason I feel like that is because I've delivered to really crap clients. I've had campaigns fail and gone, why did that happen? And learnt from that experience and kind of gone, said yes to everything, had the good and bad, and then taken the time to reflect on why things happened. But I think you have to go through that. Like, I actually don't think it's a bad thing. I think you have to go through that to figure it out, because there are other people that would be better suited in our industry to serve some clients. So I'm like, there's never and also I think sometimes in the beginning, you don't quite have the abundant mindset yet. So you kind of go, oh my God, this could be the last client that ever asked me to work for them. So when you do realize that it's unlimited, like there is unlimited potential for my woo-woo people dialing in, then it's like, it is okay to say no to things that I know are not best for me, best for the business, best for my team. That is okay because I've gone through all of those learnings and now know what we stand for and what we're good at. And there will always be enough clients, revenue, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I do agree with you, like, but I think you have to go through it first to get to the point where you're like, push back on some things.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And like our biggest learnings are in the biggest struggles as well.
Oh,
so
yeah.
And there's multiple, like, it's so funny when you reflect and try and dissect something. And even, I was thinking about this client the other day, it's like, what would I have done differently? And in hindsight, you're like, oh, these are the things I would have pulled up, but that's great in service of future opportunities. So you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Totally. And it is interesting. Like, I like that you said that, like the growth is in the struggle, you know, the challenges. It is interesting. Like, you know, someone was talking to me about problems the other day and I was like, well, if you don't have problems, you're probably not doing anything interesting. You know, you're probably not innovating. You're probably not growing. You're probably not, you know, breaking boundaries or whatever. Like, if you have no problems, you're probably just living a fairly ordinary life.
Yeah, actually my business,
like, seek out problems, people.
I agree, and it's just a different grade of problem. But my friend, I shouldn't say my friend, but he is, I guess, I don't know if he called me his friend. My business coach Alan Weiss,
he's now officially a friend.
He's like the god. Yeah, it's official now. He's a rock star, the godfather of consulting, written 60 books on it. Wow. But he says the only way that you're coasting is if you're going downhill.
Yeah, wow.
I love that. Yeah,
that is so true. And I mean, I think there's, you know, the difference between, like, I know I don't like the hustle culture mentality, but I also like work my ass off. Like, I will go above and beyond and probably work too much. But also it's like, it's a really funny balance because I also like talk to myself around, this is easy work, this is easy money, this is like flow, I love this, but I will still work till midnight to get a deadline done or whatever, you know. I think there's this interesting, like, yeah, we've got all of this language that I think is just in competition with each other, and it's sort of like, I feel like you've all got to just figure out what works for you and like what values you have and what makes you feel good. And yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. And I think often we go to sort of experts, be like, oh no, what's them? Like, I know Tim Ferriss, he always shares like morning routines. You think, oh, if I do that, but I think it is actually just getting clarity on the way that you work. It was funny. There's a podcaster in the Netherlands. She flew over to Brisbane. She stayed with me the other week and she was like, oh, Leanne, like, it looks like you work so hard. And she was hanging out with me. I'm like, no, I really don't. Like, I don't know what, like, I don't feel like I do. Like, I think I'm fast and efficient. But basically I'm thinking about something for so long and then I get to the computer and I can work very fast, but I don't feel like I'm burning the midnight oil. Maybe that's because I really enjoy what I do. So it doesn't kind of feel like work, but same as you, I use language like, you know, let it be easy, let it be fun. How do I fall in love with this process? I really cool. Actually, I know we're talking about I was saying about, we follow experts and see what they do. There's a guy called Ali Abdel on YouTube. I don't know if you follow him.
I don't, but
one of his, he's amazing. One of his time management hacks was he'll start his day by asking, what adventure am I going on today? And
I love that.
And then he'll just play the Harry Potter music in the background as he goes on this adventure. And I'm like,
oh my God, that's so cool.
It's really fun. I've tried it a couple. I'm not going to like do it every day, but when I'm like, okay, I really need to focus on this. What's the adventure? Oh,
that's awesome. And isn't it funny how it's just a reframe?
Yes.
Like, it's literally, we have the power to reframe almost any situation.
We do. Yeah. It's all perception. Yeah.
Yeah. And setting yourself up for a great day or a great week or a great project or a great whatever, like just that kind of how you talk to yourself and how you frame it. I think it's so powerful.
It is. And I kind of, it's funny because I love practical things and hacks and tactics. And then you go, do any online course or go to any conference and it's all mindset. And you're like, oh, come on, man. Like, just give me the, give me the hack and tool. But you're right. It actually is here, and what you're saying and how you're talking to yourself. And it's funny when I hear people's language sometimes on the way that they describe what they're doing, or I'm like, I'm not creative. It's like, you just want to go over there and like, not shake them, but like, hey, like it doesn't have to be that way. It does sound a bit woo-wooey, but it's true.
Well, it's really interesting. I literally had a conversation with someone yesterday, and it was like they were saying, the thing, whether you're getting things done or not, it's literally 80% mindset, 20% productivity. Like you say, what is the hack, or what is I've got a time box, or I've got to do the Pomodoro technique. Half the time it's just like you procrastinating in your head because for some reason you don't think you want to do the task. Like actually when you do it, like you say, sometimes it's that thinking about, okay, how's it all going to come together? And then when you do sit down and smash it out, it is funny. I know we're woo-wooing a bit today, but it is so true. Like your mindset does, I think, account for so much in business or in life.
Yeah. But on the same token, like actually just doing stuff, getting reinforced by taking action builds in that confidence, which reinforces the evidence. You know what I mean? You kind of
totally
have to So
there's a good one. Do you know Jenna Kutcher?
Yes.
Yeah. So she
personally.
Yeah, well, we wish. She says it's when you marry the woo and the work. And I'm like, you've got to set the intention, but you've actually got to sit down and do the job.
Yeah, I'm reading, that's fantastic. Jonah Berger, he's got a book, it's called Magic Words. So he's a researcher at Wharton Business School. He's written Contagious and Invisible Influence. A lot of his work really influences the work that I do. But he says, rather than seeing things as a verb, see it as a noun, right? So there's a difference between, and I think James Clear talks about this as well. Rather than saying, I'm writing today, it's like, think of the identity as I'm a writer. Yes. So rather than I need to make my bed every morning, the identity is how am I being a tidy person? Yes. So same thing with, and I mean, his whole research is about the power of words and how they can really shift our behaviors. So, I mean, while we're saying it's woo-wooey, there's some research to back up what we're saying. Oh,
totally. Oh, this is scientific. This is very scientific.
It's like totally scientific.
Yeah. But I mean, it is interesting. You see like the Instagram quote tiles with like, stop calling it your little business, and start owning it. And, because I think women do that a little bit as well. We kind of downplay things. And that's Australian too, like not wanting to promote yourself too much, but you've got to think about that language that you're associating with things and how it makes you feel.
That's right. And I think so. And I think even like starting like sentences off with just like the whole minimizing thing, but even when people say that, you can see their body language kind of cascade in and kind of cave in, as opposed to the shoulders back. That, I mean, they even say your physiology and how you stand, how you move. My friend again, all these people my friend, but this guy Nick Gray, he read the book The 2-Hour Cocktail. Have you read The 2-Hour Cocktail Party?
No, but that sounds awesome. Tell me about it.
It's an inspiration for my book, The 2-Hour Workshop. I saw this guy on Twitter, and he basically wrote a book. It's basically how do adults make friends.
Yep.
2-Hour Cocktail Party. So it gives you, it's like a 250-page book. I'm like telling you how to host a cocktail party. So like how to invite friends, with the invites and everything else. I ran one, and I want to run another one for my Peloton friends. But
cool.
It's a really good idea, because if you move cities, or if it's just a really great way, low-key way of meeting people and introducing other people. But he talks about main character energy.
Oh, cool.
Isn't that cool? You know what I mean? And like, you kind of know what that means, like someone that moves with purpose. And I feel like, so physiology is also important, relating to the self-talk that we have as well.
Oh, absolutely. And that's even like, it's very Tony Robbins-esque to talk about, like, so when you are in a funk, like one of the quickest and most powerful ways to fix it is to change your state. So it's like, if I've been hunched at the laptop all day and I'm frustrated and I'm not being productive and I can't do it, like get up and run around the house or do star jumps, or like that physiology. You're right. It is all connected to our energy.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you're right. I'll just be on a Google Doc and I'm just like scrolling around, and then I'm opening browser tabs and I'm like, what the heck? You kind of
like, am I doing anything right now?
It takes like, maybe it might take me like an hour to be like, what the hell have I been doing? I've just been like mindlessly, and you got to just pick yourself up out of that. I think that's a challenge sometimes, is actually just breaking it yourself.
Yeah, you do have to be a little bit self-aware, I think. Talk to me about your book. You've mentioned it twice, and I'm obsessed with business owners writing books. Talk to me about what it's about, and how was the process of writing your own book?
Okay, so this is version 1.
Oh, that's so cool. It looks awesome. I love it.
It's called the 2-Hour Workshop Blueprint. So honestly, Danielle, when I was reflecting on last year, I got very frustrated because I wanted to be an author last year and it didn't happen. Honestly, there was like anger. I was really angry at myself. But that was good because I channeled the frustration into doing it. So I was speaking at a conference in California this year in February.
Yeah.
I said to myself, I'm not going to this conference without a book. It's just not a thing. And on the 1st of January, I started writing it. And then what date was it in? 23rd of February, got delivered to the hotel in California.
Holy shit. Did you
self-publish
on Amazon or?
So this is, I'm doing you talk about the process. I'm doing a very co-creation process. So I've released version 1 and I've put it out for early feedback. I've had 500 comments on version 1. So this is version 1 is like early draft. It's still very valuable, but I've had things like, Leanne, too many metaphors, typical.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I've had incredible feedback. So now I'm working through the feedback to launch it through Amazon.
Awesome. That's so cool. That is an awesome process.
Well, because you're marketing it as you do it, and and getting validation. That was the most important thing.
People are now like into your process. Like people will be following this process.
Yes. So I've had these. So I called it the workshop wingmates, and we have a WhatsApp group. Alliteration, I love. And so on there, like, sharing behind the scenes of what's going on. And at the conference, it was pretty incredible. Like people are running up to me trying to grab books. So, and someone actually said to me, Leanne, I'm running a 2-hour workshop in 2 weeks. This is like the perfect book. And I wanted to hug her. So actually, the framework I use is the Spark framework. So very similar to the work that you do.
Cool. I love that.
The word. Yeah, Spark.
It is. It just goes with so many things. I now have to stop saying things like, let's bring a little spark to your business. I'm obsessed now.
It's such a great word. I mean, look, it's wearing the sparkles, drinking the sparkles.
Oh my God. You're so on brand. I'm so happy. How did you find the writing process? Did you find that you were just, this is happening, or was it difficult, or? Oh God. I love people who are honest, brutally honest. It is so good.
Yeah, it was, and he was right. And I caught up with my friend Jade. She's a visual illustrator and just very good at simplifying things. So I told her the intention. Over a coffee, we workshopped it. And from that moment on, I actually went to handwriting it, because when I get on a computer, I get very distracted by, even with the apps, I want to open YouTube and just read the news. Yeah. But I just took myself to a cafe every day and just wrote the chapters. And then my editing process was jumping onto the computer and drafting it.
Oh, that's a great idea. I've never heard of anybody do that before.
Yeah, my friend Brendan actually recommended it because back to that question, how do I fall in love with the process? I was not falling in love with it by sitting in front of this screen. I was falling in love with it by going to cafes, eating cool breakfasts.
That's awesome. The experience. My God, back to the experience.
That's what I've got my philosophy a lot about workshops. People think about the content. It's the experience that matters. Yes. Everyone's like, content doesn't matter anymore. Yeah. You can get all the content online. So why would someone come to your workshop? It's for the experience.
Oh my God, I love that. That's just again, good metaphor for every business ever though. You're right. If you want to do anything, you can Google it and watch a YouTube video, read a blog article, take a short course, whatever. Everything exists, but the experience or your way of working is the secret to attracting customers, I think.
Exactly. Yes.
That's so cool.
And so how you run your business is also, you talk about being on brand, how you deliver things is just showing that, right? You're just demonstrating it in the way that you are, the way that you show up. Yeah.
That's so cool. I love it so much. I'm literally like thinking through all the things I do and like how can I just, make it more amazing so that it's
I
unforgettable.
think you do that already. I honestly feel like you do that
I do
already.
try.
That's how
I do
you are
try.
that's why you are where you are. I think you've had that. I think maybe you've done it already. We're just surfacing it and making it
Yeah,
obvious. But I think you run your life that way. It
but
seems
it
that
is
way.
interesting. I am a strong believer in you should always be improving and always be optimizing. And I subscribe to the philosophy that it's never going to be perfect, but I can show up every day and make it a little bit more perfecter than it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
so
I mean, that's probably with designing workshops, I get into that trap as well of like tweaking things endlessly. And sometimes it comes a point where it's like success, not perfection.
yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
I love that. Well, on that note, I feel like we could sit here and talk forever. So I'm going to ask you one last question to leave some wisdom with our Spark community. What has been your biggest lesson? So moving from corporate to running your own business, you've been in it for 4 years now. Has there been a learning that you would pass on to a future business owner?
I think the biggest thing is when I think on anything that I do is like no one actually cares what you do. And I know you can see that two ways, right? So the one way is like, oh, no one cares, poor me. Or it's like, actually, no one cares. So I'm going to be refreshing and do whatever the hell I want. And the reason I was having a rant about LinkedIn today, because I go on there and it's super vanilla, right? And I think it's based on what we were talking about at the beginning of this conversation is we've been corporate indoctrinated.
Yes.
And we feel like to belong, we've got to be like everyone else. And now I don't, I kind of, what I do, and people go like, oh, how do you do this stuff? Because LinkedIn seems like, I don't know, people feel like it's like a weaponized social platform, but or this would be professional, but no one actually cares. People scroll on and move on with the day. Everyone is so self-absorbed. And I know that sounds terrible, but honestly, we all are. We all care about what we're doing. No one actually cares. So just go out there, have fun, give it your best shot. That's any offer that I hand out, there's no ego attached. I do things to validate the market and I move on if it doesn't work. Yeah. So I know that's
I love that. I love that so much. I think it's just so important to like underscore because I just think about it. So obviously Spark, I often have the sales lens, right? Like I'm trying to teach people how to sell themselves and their businesses so that they can grow. And I just feel like the thing that works is exactly what you just said. Just go out there and do it, just give it a go and bring your own personality to it and stop worrying about, because you're right, nobody does care. And so the more you show up as yourself and the more you put yourself out there, the people who are going to be your people will come and find you. But you're so right. Like, I think there's this innate fear that people do care and are judging us that holds so many people back from putting themselves out there.
Yeah, the amount of overthinking, and we are not our own market. We don't know. So just throw it out, see what sticks and move on. It's pretty much all digital, the work that we do. So edit the sales page, try again.
I love it. You are incredible, Leanne. Cheers to you. Thank you for coming on Spark TV.
Thanks for the interview.
Absolutely incredible. I just filled a page of like trying to secretly take notes while you were writing. So that was awesome. I appreciate your enthusiasm and honesty with the Spark community. So good.
Oh, thank you. You're awesome, Danielle. I'm so impressed with what you're creating. So well done to you. Cheers to you.
Thank you. Cheers.